Four friends huddled close to the crackling campfire. The night was cool, and the warmth of the fire was a welcome comfort. The flames danced and flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to come alive in the dark. They were deep in the woods, beside a rushing river. The sound of the water added a soothing backdrop to their gathering, blending with the crackle of the fire and the occasional hoot of an owl. John, the jokester, tossed another log onto the flames. He always knew how to keep the fire going, both literally and figuratively, with his endless supply of jokes and stories. Sarah, always prepared, stirred a pot of bubbling stew. She had a knack for making the most delicious meals out of the simplest ingredients, and tonight's stew was no exception. The aroma wafted through the air, making everyone's mouth water. Emily, the quiet observer, gazed at the dancing firelight. She found peace in these moments, watching the flames and listening to the sounds of nature. It was her way of recharging, of finding balance in the chaos of life. And then there was William. He was a man of few words, but when he spoke, everyone listened. There was something about him that drew people in, a quiet intensity that was hard to ignore. William with his haunted eyes and a story to tell. His eyes held a depth of experience, of things seen and felt that he rarely spoke of. But tonight it seemed he was ready to share. William, this river, it holds secrets. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but it carried a weight that made everyone lean in closer. The river, usually a source of comfort, now seemed to take on a more ominous presence. The others leaned in, their laughter fading into the night. The mood shifted, the light-hearted banter replaced by a tense anticipation. They knew William well enough to understand that when he spoke like this, it was best to listen. Even the campfire seemed to still, its flames shrinking back as if afraid of what was to come. The once lively fire now seemed subdued, as if it too was listening to William's words. A shiver ran down Sarah's spine. She tried to shake it off, but the feeling of unease lingered. It was as if the very air around them had changed, becoming heavier, more oppressive. The air grew heavy, filled with an unspoken dread. Each of them felt it, a sense of foreboding that settled over the group like a dark cloud. They exchanged uneasy glances, each wondering what William would say next. "William, I've seen things here, things I can't explain." His words hung in the air, a chilling promise of the unknown. The friends sat in silence, the only sound the crackling of the fire and the distant rush of the river, waiting for William to continue his tale. John, ever the skeptic, let out a scoff. "John, don't tell me you believe in river monsters, William." William shook his head, his face grim. "William, not monsters. Something else." The fire crackled again, sending sparks spiraling into the night sky. Shadows danced among the trees, taking on menacing shapes. A low growl seemed to echo from the depths of the woods, or was it just Emily's stomach rumbling? Emily shivered, pulling her jacket tighter. Even John seemed to have lost his usual bravado. William's intense gaze held them captive. He began his story. He paused, lost in the memory. The friends held their breath, hanging onto his every word. "William, every night a figure appeared across the river. He described a tall man shrouded in shadow, always standing by the water's edge. The man never spoke, never moved. He just watched. Night after night, the figure returned. William, consumed by curiosity and a strange sense of responsibility, decided to confront the mysterious visitor. He waited until his family was asleep. Then, armed with only a flashlight, he crept into the night. He reached the riverbank, his heart pounding in his chest. The figure stood there, as always, shrouded in darkness. "William, who are you?" His voice cracked with fear. The figure didn't respond. It just stood there, its silence more terrifying than any answer. William took a step closer, raising his flashlight. He had to know. As William raised the light, a gust of wind suddenly swept through the trees. The fire crackled and hissed, sending a shower of sparks into the air. The friends gasped, their eyes darting to the shadows at the edge of the woods.
"What happened next?"
John whispered, his bravado forgotten. William hesitated, his gaze fixed on the swirling smoke from the fire. His voice, when he finally spoke, was a choked whisper.
The figure ... it lunged.
William, blinded by the sudden movement, fell backward, dropping his flashlight. The beam of light flickered wildly, casting grotesque shadows that danced and writhed around him. He scrambled to his feet, fear coursing through him. But when he looked back to the riverbank, the figure was gone. All that remained was the sound of the rushing water and the rustling leaves. William ran back to his campsite, his heart pounding in his ears.
The figure, it lunged.
He never told anyone about the figure, not his parents, not his friends. The memory haunted him, though, a chilling secret he carried alone, until now.
The next morning they found a body in the river.
The friends gasped. A cold silence descended upon them. The fire crackled, the only sound breaking the stillness of the night. It was a man, they said, drowned. His body was found floating in the murky waters, lifeless and cold. The townsfolk whispered about him, their voices tinged with fear and curiosity. Who was he? Where did he come from? And most importantly, how did he end up in the river? They never found out who he was or how he ended up in the river. But William knew. He had seen the man before, wandering near the riverbank, his eyes filled with a strange, haunting sadness. William had always felt a connection to the river, a pull that he couldn't quite explain. It was as if the river held secrets, dark and ancient, that called out to him. He knew deep down that the figure by the river and the drowned man were one and the same. The memory of that night was etched into his mind, a vivid and terrifying image that he couldn't shake. The figure had stood there, motionless, staring into the water as if searching for something. William had watched from a distance, too afraid to approach, but unable to look away. Had he, by confronting the figure, somehow caused the man's demise? The question gnawed at him, a relentless torment that kept him awake at night. He replayed the events over and over in his mind, searching for answers that never came. The guilt weighed heavily on him, a burden that he couldn't escape. The thought haunted him, a chilling echo of that night by the river. He could still hear the sound of the water, the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. It was a sound that had once brought him peace, but now it only served as a reminder of his darkest fears. The river had taken something from him, something that he could never get back. The friends sat in stunned silence, the weight of William's story pressing down on them. They had gathered around the campfire, expecting a night of laughter and camaraderie, but instead they were faced with a tale of mystery and tragedy. The flames flickered and danced, casting eerie shadows on their faces as they listened, their expressions a mix of shock and sympathy. The wind whispered through the trees, a mournful sound that seemed to carry the secrets of the river. It was as if the forest itself was alive, watching and listening, bearing witness to the events that had unfolded. The night was filled with an eerie stillness, a sense of foreboding that hung in the air. The truth was submerged, hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered.
Do you think it was your fault?
I don't know, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm somehow responsible.
The friends sat in silence once more, each lost in their thoughts. The fire had died down, the embers glowing faintly in the darkness. Shadows stretched long and eerie, twisting familiar shapes into something menacing. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the trees, the forest seemed to come alive with a mystical energy. The friends, still groggy from the night's events, felt a strange mix of relief and unease. The sunlight filtering through the dense canopy created an almost ethereal atmosphere, casting long shadows that danced on the forest floor. They packed up their campsite and left, their movements mechanical and hurried. The river flowed silently beside them, its gentle currents a stark contrast to the turmoil in their minds. The morning light glinted off the water's surface, but beneath that serene exterior lay secrets that would haunt them for years to come. Its secrets still buried beneath its murky depths. The river seemed almost sentient, as if it knew the weight of the mysteries it held. William never forgot that night. The river's secret remained with him, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved. The eerie silence of the riverbank seemed to whisper tales of forgotten events, of things that should never be disturbed. A chilling reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved. What do you think really happened that night by the river? The question lingered in the air, unanswered and unsettling. Was it merely a case of an unfortunate accident? Or was there something more sinister at play? The possibilities were endless, each more terrifying than the last. Was it merely a case of an unfortunate accident, a tragic twist of fate that led to the night's events? Or was there something more sinister at play, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? The friends debated endlessly, each theory more outlandish than the last, but none could shake the feeling that they were missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. Or was there something more sinister at play? The shadows seemed to hold secrets of their own, whispering of hidden dangers and unseen forces. Intriguing clues lay scattered in the wooded area, each one a tantalizing hint at the truth, yet frustratingly elusive. The friends couldn't help but feel that they were being watched, that the forest itself was keeping an eye on them. Some secrets, like the whispering currents of a river, run deep and silent, forever evading our grasp. The enigmatic nature of the winding river seemed to mock their efforts to uncover the truth. As they walked away, the friends couldn't shake the feeling that the river would always hold a part of them, a piece of their souls forever entwined with its mysteries. And so they left, with more questions than answers, knowing that some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved.